Greetings, mortals. Welcome to another session of the Infernal Court in musical hell. I'm Diva, your judge, jury, executioner, and child of the 80s. Well, 2080s BC. It's close enough. Nostalgia is a funny thing. Not only does it make people idolize the zeitgeist of a bygone era while conveniently ignoring everything that made that era miserable, it causes an unreasonable affection for the ridiculous trends of the time. The awful fashions, silly dance crazes, cheesy music, and dumb fads are cherished with a fondness that far exceeds their merit. It's as if people say, yes, this was stupid, but it reminds us of a time when we were too young to know it was stupid, and that makes it okay. Shamelessly exploiting this quirk of human nature is our next offender, Rock of Ages. A trip down memory lane for the Generation X set, Rock of Ages was brought to the big screen by Adam Shankman, who was behind the mostly successful film adaptation of Hairspray the Musical. He follows a similar formula here, with a star-studded cast and deliberately tongue-in-cheek musical numbers. But that's the thing about movie formulas. Sometimes they mix well, and sometimes they produce nothing but a mess and an odd stench.
This place is about to become a sea of sweat, ear-shattering music, and puke.
I have a feeling I know what I'll be providing. Let's examine the case of Rock of Ages. The year is 1987. You know what, I bet we could find a movie theater playing Princess Bride and forget about this whole thing. No? Oh, you're no fun. During the opening credits, we follow the journey of young Sherry, a sweet, pretty thing with a suitcase full of rock albums and a heart full of dreams who's leaving her dull life in a flyover state for the bright lights of the big city. Which means it's how long into the movie before she's robbed of everything she owns? And here we have sin number 1, the sheer tonnage of cliches in the plot. Yes, it's deliberate, but that doesn't mean that it's interesting. There's a certain narrative alchemy to turning a pile of archetypes into an entertaining story, and Rock of Ages doesn't have it. It doesn't feel like a movie so much as a checklist. You have your starry-eyed romantic leads, the disapproving moral crusaders, the substance-addled rock idol, his venal manager, the motherly sex industry worker. You get the picture. You can probably piece together the entire story just by looking at the character titles on the DVD cover. In fact, I'm betting you could piece together a better story with just a little more imagination. So the good news is, Sherry's country mouse plight attracts the attention of blandly handsome bartender / aspiring rock god Drew. Drew works at a concert venue called the Bourbon Room and offers to put in a good word for Sherry with the club's seedy owner Dennis Dupree, played by seedy Alec Baldwin. Because he's been around the block a few times, or he's seen one too many movies like this one, Dennis has the measure of Sherry the moment he meets her.
And then somebody, your adorable Aunt Betty, told you you had real talent.
It was actually my Aunt Doris.
Uh-huh. And like a flaming dipshit, you believed her, dumped your jock boyfriend, ditched town and moved to Hollywood to have a crack at fame and fortune. Am I missing anything?
Well, at least someone recognizes how ridiculous this whole setup is. But Sherry's sob story about getting mugged, coupled with a waitress conveniently quitting in the opening sequence, convinces Dennis to give her a job. Drew helps her celebrate by taking an extended lunch break in a record store.
Hands down, favorite record ever.
Me too. I would have killed to be at that concert. That record really changed my life.
Even in a movie full of cliches, the cliched romantic leads get sin number 2. Drew and Sherry are, oh, how shall I put this?
Dull! My God, it's dull!
Neither of them really establishes a personality beyond artist with a dream, and although Julianne Howe and Diego Boneta sing well enough, they don't really connect the songs with the characters or their relationship. It feels like the two of them are too wrapped up in their own I-wanna-be-famous worlds to really fall in love. But of course, fall in love they do, after a few scenes where they share their dreams and their backstory.
I was raised by my grandma. Yeah, she, by the way, was all for me getting out of Oklahoma.
Really?
Yeah, she said to me, honey, there ain't nothing for you here, and the last thing that I want you to do is wind up stuck here like me.
Have these characters said anything that isn't some kind of exposition yet? Sin number 3 for dialogue that sounds like it was directly lifted from the plot synopsis. Drew and Sherry are having their We're So Happy Together montage, but all is not sunny on the Sunset Strip, as the Bourbon Room is coming under fire from moral crusading Mayor Mike Whitmore and his even more zealously crusading wife Patricia.
Today, the city of Los Angeles gets a twofer. Not only the best mayor this city has ever had, but also me.
Really? You have Catherine Zeta-Jones in your movie and you direct her to act like the drama queen villain in High School Musical? Sin number 4 for criminal misuse of your best talent. Zeta-Jones is one of the few genuine triple threats working in film today, but she can't make anything out of Patricia's two-dimensional character, shoehorned in motivation, we'll talk about that later, and badly conceived choreography. Observe her dancing with her bevy of pearl-clutching church ladies.
Hit me with your best shot, fire away.
Is she dancing or trying to shake out a pins and needles feeling? I'd like to believe there's some irony in these pastel-suited matrons using a rock song to declare war on rock and roll, but I don't think the movie is smart enough for that. The Whitmore's attack on the Bourbon Room couldn't have come at a worse time, since the club is strapped for cash and a bit behind on their tax payments. Dennis and his even seedier life partner Lonnie helpfully exposit that they're hoping for a big take courtesy of Arsenal, which is playing its farewell concert that night before their lead singer Stacey Jacks strikes out on a solo career.
Stacy?
Ooh, I'm not sure the boss would approve of the codpiece. I feel like I owe the Pirate King an apology now. Dennis and Lonnie are right to be anxious about pinning their hopes on Stacy, as he seems to be missing a few strings on his guitar.
Now let's burn this place to the ground.
Yes, right on, brother. Rock and roll.
No. We're not done. We literally need to burn this place to the ground. Otherwise, the Fire Phoenix gets trapped.
Although, really, if you're casting a celebrity who indulges in bizarre practices and is so far out of touch with reality he couldn't see it with a telescope, who else would you get besides Tom Cruise? Okay, maybe Johnny Depp. And to be fair, Cruise is one of the few people in this to give his character any kind of nuance. You're never sure if he's really that spaced out or if he's just trolling people because he can. Stacy's manager, Paul Gill, assures Dennis that everything will go smoothly, and Dennis takes his word even though Paul's evil scumbag signs are about as big as that early cell phone he's lugging around. But just hours before the big show, surprise, surprise, the opening band up and cancels on them. Oh, who could possibly fill in at the last minute?
Drew? That Drew? Our Drew?
He's better than concrete balls.
That's a good point. Concrete balls are very heavy.
And he'll do it for free.
Despite recognizing what a colossally stupid idea this is, and probably having a Rolodex full of groups who would be happy to take the gig, Dennis agrees. But Sherry has second thoughts, as she's now concerned that Drew's sudden chance at fame will make him forget her.
Saying I love you is not the words I want to hear from you. It's not that I want you.
And right about now is a good place to bring up sin number 5. The songs never feel like they mean anything. This goes beyond the usual jukebox musical issue of the songs not having much context. Even when it does have some relation to the dramatic moment, the singers never make it feel like it does. There's a lot of longing looks off into the distance and throwing heads back while belting a high note, but it all feels like marking time until the next plot point. Of course, there's the usual amount of no-context singing as well. Towards the end of the movie, several characters sing Every Rose Has Its Thorn, and it's never clear why some of them are chiming in on this song, other than the fact that, hey, they paid for Tom Cruise and Mary J. Blige, and damn it, they're gonna use them. Anyway, back to the concert. Patricia and her church ladies are protesting outside, the concert attendees are protesting the protesters, and Stacy is getting interviewed by Rolling Stone reporter Constance Sack.
Do you think that it's possible that you've shut out or alienated so many people in your life that you had no other option but to go solo?
I'd call that a big yes.
And by the way, is Stacy's pet monkey really necessary? I feel like it's just there because someone at the pitch meeting said, "Hey, let's throw in a monkey. Monkeys are funny." Stacy takes a liking to Constance, either because she's the only person who's willing to talk back to him or because he just wants to see if he can get under her pleated shirt. So the two of them have a huge makeout session, and bear with me because I'm going to go through this next part as fast as possible to get it over with. After he gets his freak on, Stacy sends Sherry off to grab a bottle of scotch from his limo, which she does, but back at his dressing room, she manages to drop the scotch and get all disheveled. So just as Drew's band, Wolfgang von Colt, yes, really, takes the stage, he looks over and just happens to see Sherry emerging tousled from Stacy's dressing room, followed by the rocker tucking in his pants, and he assumes the worst. But he gets over his broken heart to take the stage. Surprise, surprise, he's a hit. Paul thinks he's found his next big thing, and Drew gets all angry at Sherry and tells her off without bothering to tell her why he's angry, and she ends up quitting her job at the Bourbon because of course that's what you do when you have a fight with your boyfriend. Needless to say, that litany of terrible communication is sin number 6. It's bad enough when movies pull that contrivance out for some third-act drama, but we're barely halfway through the movie right now. That's a long time to drag out something that could be cleared up with 2 minutes of simple conversation. Heartbroken and in despair, Sherry walks off into the dramatically convenient rain and ends up where all lost, forlorn, innocent girls alone in the big bad world end up.
Lonely ladies waiting for a bite, waiting for the customers who only come at night.
No, where they end up when the writers don't want to deglamorize them too much.
I said you can't hide on the inside all the pain you ever felt.
Now you've got it. Sherry does start out as a waitress, which is bad enough since it requires her to dress in Xanadu cast-offs, but we all know it's only a matter of time before they get Julianne Howe swinging around a pole.
Any way you want it, that's the way you need it. Any way you want it.
So that's where things stand now. Drew is on his way up, Sherry is on her way down, the Bourbon Room is still in hock because Paul went and nabbed the entire take from the concert like the greedy slime ball he so obviously is, Stacy is still stoned out of his gourd and hanging out with a monkey, and the Whitmores have uncovered the Bourbon's little tax problem and are threatening to shut the place down. And Patricia reveals her motivation for going after Stacy Jacks.
When I was a naive undergrad at UCLA, I had a roommate. Oh. Let's just call her Vivian. One night, she was partying innocently at the Bourbon Room when that two-headed monster spotted her and lured her into his suite at the Park Hyatt.
Yes, you heard right. Patricia... Oh, I'm sorry, Patricia's friend from college, who is not obviously Patricia in any way, shape, or form, no siree Beelzebub, was seduced by Stacy, abandoned, and as a result she made it her personal quest to destroy him. Seriously, that's the best you guys could do? Sin number 7 here, people. The woman scorned card is nearly as old as drama itself, and very rarely is it explored in any meaningful way. While male characters can also be driven to vengeance by thwarted love, they're just as likely to be motivated by other factors such as injustice or betrayal. And even when men do get the bad romance plot, it's usually one aspect of a set of more complicated psychological issues. For female characters, the descent is steep and abrupt. Step 1, get dumped. Step 2, get even. This not only hamstrings her character development by tying it completely to her relationship with a man, I think it's an attempt to absolve the guy of any responsibility for how the relationship turned out. It's as if the writers are trying to say, sure, he may have used her and broke her heart, but she's completely overreacting to the whole situation, so she kind of deserves it in a way, right? Meanwhile, Dennis and Lonnie's heterosexual bromance is becoming a lot less of the former.
'Cause I can't fight this feeling anymore. I've forgotten what I've started fighting for.
No, sin number 8 for this song. To begin with, Alec Baldwin was doing all right in this movie until you let him sing.
I tell myself that I can't hold out forever.
You're not fucking with me, are you, Dennis?
I said there is no reason for my fear.
This is a dream come true.
Second, it's the 21st century. We are well past the tee-hee look at the funny gay people stage of entertainment. And that's all this is, because it's not developed naturally from the characters and it certainly doesn't go anywhere useful. It's just a cheap laugh and one that the writers should have known better than to aim for. Back on Drew's plot thread, Paul is having trouble marketing him to producers who are convinced, quite justifiably I might add, that the hair metal thing is on its way out. So Paul has Drew made over as a new kid saved by the bell type and puts him at the front of a boy band. This is supposed to feel like he's forcing Drew to betray his rock and roll roots and sell out, but come on, look at this guy. He's obviously more Teen Beat than Spin.
You are not the Z guys either. You are the Z guys. Double the E, double the Z, double the flavor.
Laugh, folks, this is the satire. In order to placate Drew, Paul calls Dennis up and sells Stacy's first solo concert to the Bourbon Room with Drew's group as the opening act, which is a bit like putting One Direction on the same ticket as Ozzy Osbourne, but never mind. The point is, Paul promises to let the club keep all the profits, no for realsies this time, so we're all headed back to the Bourbon Room for, well, more of the same, really. On the plus side, the bad communication part of the movie is nearly over, as Stacy finds out Paul stiffed the Bourbon Room from Constance's article in Rolling Stone. And Constance knew about that because, the voices in her head told her, I guess. And Drew and Sherry meet at their old hangout and talk long enough to clear up the whole Stacy Jacks thing, but not long enough to convince Sherry to stay in LA instead of going back home. Luckily, the guy who stole Sherry's records at the beginning of the movie, remember him? Just happened to sell the lot to the record store where Drew hangs out, so he buys them up and sends them to Sherry as a gesture of true love. Also on the subject of true love, Stacy decides he has it for Constance when he drunk dials her at work.
Put her on.
She's not here. She's at the Bourbon in Los Angeles, and she's covering Stacy Jacks for a solo gig. So you can go there and weird her out.
I have a gig?
Sweet Lucifer, Charles Dickens didn't trade in this much contrived coincidence. Speaking of, Stacy pulls up to the Bourbon Room just as the dueling protests have reached their climax.
What a twist!
This photograph here of a nymph apparently about to gargle Stacy Jacks' body pottage is none other than Patricia Wigmore, the mayor's wife.
Well, good thing Patricia is evil and all, otherwise this would look uncomfortably like slut-shaming. While Stacy is sharing a disturbingly enthusiastic tongue kiss with Constance and sending his monkey to present Dennis with a sack full of cash, Drew's boy band is bombing on stage, as might be expected with any crowd that isn't comprised of 12-year-old girls. But lo and behold, guess who he sees in the audience? And yeah, it's pretty much all wrap-up from here. Paul gets punched by the monkey, because, again, monkeys are funny. Drew and Sherry are co-frontlining their own band and performing at Dodger Stadium with Stacy, who's reunited with Arsenal. Constance is now Stacy's baby mama. Patricia has decided to throw in with the people who publicly humiliated her. Mayor Whitmore probably started a meth lab or something. Mary J. Blige, did they ever mention her character's name? Is still popping up at random to justify her paycheck, Alec Baldwin is still making my ears bleed, and the finale goes on and on and on and on. Can we all agree that between this film and Glee, this song is officially ruined forever? Good. Look, I get it. Rock of Ages is supposed to be this silly, fun trip down memory lane for 30 and 40-somethings, and if that's what you're in the mood for, it probably works fine. But I could never shake the feeling that this is just a cynical attempt to appeal to that demographic while putting as little effort into the project as possible. Which, considering that one of the main antagonists is a money-grubbing focus group-led agent, is kind of ironic. The songs are performed well, Alec Baldwin accepted, but rarely have they any dramatic effect, and you're better off buying the soundtrack than sitting through the movie. Therefore, the Court of Musical Hell orders the following punishments. For not using his cast's talents to their best advantage, we condemn Adam Shankman to be given a shave and manicure by a lumberjack. For the endless parade of cliches attempting to pass itself off as a script, we condemn the writers to be trapped in a TV tropes archive binge. Finally, for their shallow and baseless love story and ambitions, Drew and Sherry are condemned to become the couple from the 1985 video. So let it be recorded. This session of the Infernal Court in musical hell is now adjourned.
She was gonna be an actress. She was gonna be a star. She was gonna shake her ass on the hood of Whitesnake's car.